Commissioner Johnson is absent with notice. He may be attending
Yeah,
remotely.
yep.
Observing, he is
Yep.
observing
Yep.
remotely. Commissioners Jackson,
Here.
Lubes,
Here.
Nelson,
Here.
Hoffman,
Present.
Spiz,
Present.
Christensen,
Here.
is here as ex officio.
We're here, we're present.
Oh, sorry, I didn't unmute. We're taking roll. Commissioner McGillivray is absent with notice. And Commissioner Joliet,
Here.
Madam Chair, you have a quorum.
I just noticed the microphones are off. We need to.
No.
No, we got, okay,
mic is
surround
guy.
sound. Okay.
Yes.
Russian.
Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I need a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved?
Second. Spiz and seconded by Gershenson.
Okay.
Right. Okay, we will move on to the vote.
Good, she don't want to.
Official.
Real official.
Madam Chair, you have 7 yeas, or nays?
Okay, we will move on to public comment. Is minute, did we already do the agenda?
We just voted on
Oh, okay.
Doing the agenda.
All right, I need a motion to approve the agenda.
it. So moved.
Okay, motion by Hoffman, support by Lubes. Please prompt the vote.
Madam Chair, you have 7 yeas, or nays?
Okay, excellent. Public comment. Is there anyone from the public who would like to address the committee? Seeing none, I will close public comment. And we will move on to the consent agenda. We don't have a consent agenda, okay. We'll move on to communications. Is this a receive and file? A motion to, yes, I need a motion to receive and file a communications of Parks and Recreation, Michigan Department of Natural Resources 2024 Off-Road Vehicle Trail Improvement Fund Grant Application. Motion by Nelson, support by Lubes. Would you like to?
Quick summary?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
So this is an application that we did already submit. Time got away from us this spring a little bit. We were very busy. So the chair did authorize us to submit this, which is why it's a communication item today. But this is the DNR's ORV Trail Improvement Fund that we apply to every year to make improvements to the ORV park. The projects are generally funded in full, which this one will be if it gets awarded. And this one for this year is for the addition of 2 prefabricated like flushable vault toilets for the park. Right now we only have porta-johns out there, which is not great. So this will be a nice addition. We'll have one in the parking lot at the front and then one toward the back of the park so people don't have to come all the way up if they need to use the restroom. So we're hoping that this will be something we can add to the park next year.
Okay, excellent. Questions?
You say next year, 24?
Yeah, if this gets awarded, we'll find out at the end of this year and then we would install it next year.
Okay, and what exactly is this toilet? I'm not too graphic, but.
So it's essentially operates like a vault toilet, but it like flushes. Like it's,
Okay.
you don't realize that it's a vault toilet, but that's what it is. So it's a much nicer experience to use the restroom.
And how's the attendance and probably too early to say right now, but
Yeah, we are just getting going there. We tend to be very busy throughout the summer and then well into the fall. It's busier out there than in the spring, but numbers have been good. People are having a good time. We've had a couple of really big events out there in the past few weeks. We had our Armed Forces Day Veterans event, which was pretty well attended. We did an industry day out there recently with economic development team, bringing out automotive suppliers and defense
that's a great
contractors.
idea.
Yeah, so our rental business is booming, which is great.
super, thank you.
Excellent. Do we need a vote for that? We had a motion and a second to receive and file. Okay. Any more questions? Okay, we'll prompt the vote.
I'm
Okay.
sure you have 78, 0 nays.
Okay, all right, next we move on to our regular agenda. First item is Parks and Recreation, Natural Resource Community Steward Projects. So I need a motion to recommend to the board. Motion by Gershenson, support by Loops. Do you want to do an explanation for us?
We would love to, yeah. I'm actually gonna turn this one over to Sarah Cook Malin. She's our Chief of Natural Resources and Sustainability, to talk a little bit about this program, where we're working with local communities.
Yeah, so we offer a $150,000 grant program to local communities and conservation-related organizations. They have 2 months to apply for grant programs. We don't actually disperse the money to them, but we complete the tasks on their behalf. So we use our internal contractors, our county blanket contractors, to complete projects for them. This year, our projects focused on biodiversity and climate resilience, so we encouraged them to apply for projects in one of those two categories. We had 16 applications this year, and the funding was adequate to fund all of those projects. So we're gonna fund all of them either through that $150,000 or through the staff that we have will complete some of the projects on their behalf as well. So everyone who applied was awarded money this year. They focus on the community projects, and then we also operate a handful of projects that provide countywide benefit that we administer, so things like the native plant giveaway. Some of the money from that pot goes towards that project where we pass out native plant kits to local residents where they can sign up, or we do right-of-way Phragmites spraying with the Road Commission for Oakland County. We operate a joint program to spray Phragmites along roadways. So some of the money from this list also goes to those countywide projects as well.
Excellent.
And you should have that full list in your packet.
Yes, I see that. Any discussion on this item? Commissioner
So the
Gershenson?
full amount was 150.
That's correct, yeah.
Okay, and was there a limit that each community could apply for?
They could apply for any amount that they wanted. We warned them, we told them what the full amount was so that they wouldn't apply for $150,000 each. So they knew the relative scope of the funding. And there were some communities that applied for slightly larger projects, and we either scaled them back to meet the funding amounts, or we supplemented with our staff time to make sure that they still got the outcome that they desired, but maybe we put in less of the contractual funding.
That's a great thing to do. How did the native plant sale go last week?
It was great. We had a ton of people. The Troy location was very popular. We had over 400 people come to Troy in that 2-hour span at Evanswood Church. So we passed out a ton of plant kits. This year we only let people register for 1 kit. So we had over 600 people that got kits this year. So it was very successful.
Right.
Any further discussion? Can we do a voice vote on this?
Sure.
Okay.
Okay, and Commissioner Woodward is here as an ex officio. Jackson,
Yes.
Lubes.
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Hoffman,
Yes.
Spiz,
Yes.
Gershenson,
Yes.
Woodward,
Yes.
Joliet.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you have 8 yeas and 0 nays.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is Parks and Recreation, recognizing July 2023 as Parks and Recreation Month. We need a motion to recommend to the board. Motion by Lubes, supported by Hoffman.
Yeah, so this is not new for this committee. I know we bring this every year. It's something we've been doing since 1985. We've celebrated July as National Parks and Recreation Month with the intent of promoting strong, vibrant, resilient communities and to recognize all of our talented parks and recreation professionals that bring those services to the residents of Oakland County and that help maintain our beautiful park system. The theme this year for the National Recreation and Park Association is Where Community Grows. So if you don't follow us on our social media channels, please do, because you'll see a lot of interesting and exciting posts over the month of July, kind of referencing that theme of where community grows. And then we also just wanted to thank this committee and the Board of Commissioners, of course, for your continued support of everything that we're doing over at Parks and Recreation. We've got a fun summer lined up, lots of cool things going on. I know we're going to come back next month and update you on all of the ARPA projects, which are moving forward. So we're excited to get rolling this summer.
Okay, excellent. Any further discussion?
Just a question.
Commissioner Spitz?
You mentioned social media.
Yep.
Is there anything else that the parks are gonna do to kind of recognize July? Promotion type of things are going out.
So we don't necessarily have any particular events around Parks and Recreation Month. We use it more of a media PR tool than specific events. But everything we do will essentially be tagged with that, with the hashtags associated with that for the month of July, but no specific events.
Thank you.
Anybody else? All right, can we do a roll call vote for this?
Sure. Commissioner Spitz,
Yes.
Loops,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Hoffman,
Yes.
Gershenson,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
Woodward,
Yes.
Joliet.
Yes,
Chair, you have 8 yeas, 0 nays.
excellent. Okay, next up, we have an AT&T easement at Rotary Park. So I need a motion to recommend to the board. Motion by Hoffman, support by Nelson.
All right, thank you. So thank you to the committee for allowing this last minute ad and the staff for helping us get this on. This came to us about a week or so ago. This is in regards to the dam removal and restoration project at Rotary Park in Davisburg. AT&T needs to relocate some lines that are essentially kind of right under the spillway of the dam, move them further into Rotary Park so that we don't damage them as part of this project or, in the future so that they're in a safe location. So with the schedule the way that it was, we needed to get this on this committee so that they could start that work in time for us to actually begin our work, which we're hoping to start drawdown of the pond sometime either later this month or in early July.
Any further discussion? Can I have a roll call vote on this too, please?
Okay. Commissioners Loops,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Hoffman,
Yes.
Gershenson,
Yes.
Jackson,
I just wanna say, for the record, I work for AT&T, but I don't have any type of satisfaction gained by voting yes, so I will vote yes.
Woodward,
Yes.
Spitz,
Yes. I give money to AT&T.
Spitz,
Yes.
Joliet.
Yes,
Madam Chair, you have 8 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you. Okay, next up, we have a human resource fiscal years 2022, 23, 24 supplemental collective bargaining agreement for employees represented by the United Auto Workers Local 889, representing sheriffs of non-supervisory employees. Welcome. Oh, I'm sorry, we need a motion to receive and
To
file.
recommend.
You're right. To recommend and forward to finance. All right, motion by Lube, support by Spiz. Welcome.
Welcome, good morning, Commissioners, thank you very much. Hopefully you guys didn't forget me yet. My name is Sunil Seja, Director of HR. I brought a group of my people here with me to kind of talk a little HR. We're gonna kick it off with Dan Klepner, who is our Chief of Labor.
Hi, good morning. Nice to see everyone again. Before you hear on a couple of motions, I'll begin with the first one. I believe it's at page 29 of your packet. It's a motion to approve a UAW supplement. It's impacting, I believe, 14 position classifications. But as many of you are aware, that UAW has a master agreement. and then they will organize and agree to various supplements that are sort of more idiosyncratic in nature for each individual department. First one, which is the sheriff's unit, is approximately 14 positions, 14 individuals, fewer positions than that. It only impacts work schedules and holiday and overtime and alternate work schedules, so it's not an additional financial impact. The financial impact is none. But yes, I'm here to answer any questions and request your approval of that supplement.
Any questions? Commissioner Spitz?
Yeah, just to be clear, you said it's 14 individuals, so you're not adding anybody into this bargaining unit, it's just a supplement, which is what's used here, to the existing UAW contract for these 14 individuals.
Well, yes, so they are going to be new members of the general UAW. The master agreement covers them as well, and then the supplement is just that. So we're adding, they added 14 people. I believe it's only 2 classifications. Yeah, and but yes, so they are now new union members. I mean, if I'm understanding your question correctly.
I think you are. So were they not part of any union prior to this?
That's correct.
Okay, so this class title is being moved into the union.
That is correct.
Okay.
Yes. Sorry.
Okay. Anybody else?
I do have a follow-up question.
Oh, go ahead.
Is it something they requested for that class unit, something we drove? Why are they being added is really my question.
Yeah, so they voted to certify to join. It's it starts at the employee level.
Right.
It's not us driving it one way or another. I can say, being in the room for negotiations, that management was very amenable to it, but it started at the employee level.
Okay, that's what I understand. Thank you.
Of course.
Excellent. Any further discussion? All right, seeing none, can we get a roll call vote for this?
Commissioners Nelson,
Yes.
Kaufman,
Yes.
Gershenson,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
Woodward,
Yes.
Spiz,
Yes.
Luce,
Yes.
Joliet.
Yes. Yes.
Chair, you have 8 yeas, 0 nays.
Excellent. Thank you. Next up, another HR fiscal years 22, 23, 24 supplemental collective bargaining agreement for employees represented by the UAW, Local 889, representing Department of Public Communications supervisory and non-supervisory employees. I need a motion to recommend and forward to finance. Motioned by Lube, support by Jackson. Thank you.
Thank you. This is not deja vu. This is a very similar agenda item to the one we just discussed, except that this one is related to the the Department of Public Communications. It's a supervisory and non-supervisory employees. I believe that there are 6 non-supervisory positions that are going to be included in the union. Same as the one we previously discussed. It's a supplement. Only work schedules, holiday and overtime and alternative work schedules are on the issues for this supplement. No financial impact, and essentially the same discussion we just had. So for those interested, I'm happy to answer any questions, but it's a minimal financial impact.
Commissioner Gershenson.
So these positions, well, some of them are new, but they were not included in the UAW?
That's correct. In the original master, yes, that's correct.
Okay, and these were their, the requests coming from the employees mostly?
Correct.
It's still amazing to me that the UAW covers our communications team, but I
Yeah.
suppose that's part of what it is, right?
Yes, yeah, and there's a couple of segments to the UAW. There's supervisory and non-supervisory, so there are some of the more favor using the term, but it's like sort of the managerial and or more white collarish positions, what would be viewed as that, and that's where the UAW steps in. So these are all kind of high level, higher ranking positions, so that's why it's the UAW as opposed to perhaps an IBEW contract, which would cover more of our skilled laborers, skilled workers.
Got it, thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Hoffman?
I have a question, not really about this contract. Actually, when I was a youngster, I was a UAW member.
Oh.
I've been a Teamster in the past, but how many employees work in the Oakland County complex on all the buildings here, including the administration building?
Including our part-time workers during the summer in Parks and Rec, I believe it's all close to 5,000. Correct.
Wow.
Right.
Just on this complex?
Not necessarily just like the county complex, so including the EOB, including like all the water treatment facilities, including, you know, our various parks and, you know, wherever our sheriff's deputies are deployed, it runs up to almost 5,000.
Yeah, I was just curious about the complex
Ooh,
itself.
that, you may have stumped me, that one, I don't know if anyone else knows, but sorry, that
It's
I,
almost 3,000, there's
There you go.
48 locations countywide, so we
That's
probably.
countywide though.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
just
so I would
thought-
say on this hub, at least 3,000.
Wow.
so see,
On this complex right here.
proof that there's nothing HR cannot answer for you.
They have your back.
Yes, right, thank you.
No, I didn't.
Commissioner Jackson?
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Followed by Commissioner Nelson.
So just that work here physically.
A question about these positions in the Department of Public Communications. It says 2 supervisory classifications and 6 non-supervisory classifications. And the list here, are 2 of these the supervisory classifications, and if so, which ones?
I believe the first two, the marketing communications officer, and I believe the chief of,
Chief, yeah.
I believe that's the case, I think it's the
And
first two.
the chief of the older adult services, I just need clarification. I want to ask my fellow Commissioner Nelson, is this position that you advocated for, or
So this is
senior?
the position that Commissioner McGilvery actually
Mhm.
led the endeavors on, and it's Jim Ellison, who is the Chief of Older Adult Services.
Okay, so yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? Oh, Commissioner Nelson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I noticed that within both of the supplementals, it talks about an alternative work schedule.
Yes.
How do departments collaborate amongst each other, given that every department has kind of their own unique setup in regards to flexible, alternative, hybrid? So how does coordination take place?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I can tell you for what it means for this supplement in particular is the alternative work schedule clause means whether an employee, if they choose to, can work a 4-10 schedule, 4 days in for 10 hours as opposed to 5 days in for 8 hours. That's all that the contract contemplates. It sounds like your question is much broader, which is each division or department is responsible for sort of policing their own, whether it's a flexible work schedule, a hybrid work schedule. As you mentioned, I know that there's some departments that require full sort of in person. There are some that offer a 1 day from home, and then there are others that do, I believe, a 3 and a 2 with a mandatory that you're in for 3, home for, or remote for 2. But this contract doesn't speak to actual hybrid work schedule or anything else. The alternative work schedule here is just whether the management will approve an individual for choosing to work a 4-10 or whether they won't.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Okay, thank you. And can we do a roll call vote on this, please? Sure.
Hoffman,
Yes.
Gershenson,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
Woodward,
Yes.
Spiz,
Yes.
Lubes,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Joliet.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you have 8 yeas, 0 nays.
Excellent. Next, we have HR recommendation for medical and prescription benefit coverage for non-represented employees. I need a motion by Spiz, second by Jackson.
Again, thank you. Part 2 of our HR group coming. One, I didn't want to forget, but our goal is also to look into the future. So we brought our intern, Zach, to come visit and get an idea of where we're at. So Zach, just wanted to say hi quick.
Hi, Zach.
So that's our future. So we're also looking at, we have other interns that are involved. But that's enough said of that. Let's move on to part 2, which is our group here in Heather Van Pooker and also Stephanie Betricky. They're gonna talk about our medical and prescription changes, so just a
Great. Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to provide some information about our 2024 medical and prescription plans. Our contracts are expiring at the end of 2023, so we undertook an RFP process and received bids for medical, active, and pre-65 retirees. This is for prescription for active and all retirees, then the medical piece limited to active and pre-65 retirees. We did receive 4 proposals, 2 from current providers, ASR and Blue Cross Blue Shield, and from Priority Health and Aetna as well. So we are here before you today to recommend an all Blue Cross Blue Shield platform with a little change to plan design on PPO 1 and 2, which are our most popular selections, but some additional choices to offer more variety and what employees are going to have available to them, and also some very distinct differences in price points from employees. And with that, I'll turn it over to Stephanie to walk you through some of those details.
So within your agenda packet today, you have Schedule A, and that's gonna go over the framework that we're gonna recommend that offers 3 distinctive plan designs. Well, PPO, HMO, and a high deductible plan, and then 3 distinctive price points or cost sharing for our employees. So I will walk through at high level and then solicit your questions. What Heather had discussed was PPO 1 and 2, and I'm not sure if the pointer works, but it's the retained plan designs are the dark blue. Those are gonna remain the same cost, the same plan design structure, no changes except both will be under Blue Cross Blue Shield. One is currently under ASR, which is PPO 1. In the middle, we have the modified plan, that's the HMO. Now, we currently offer HMO through HAP, however, they did not bid on this, so we are going to move this over to Blue Care Network as our recommendation, but we would use the same pricing structure as the current plan we have, which is PPO 3. PPO 3 would be eliminated in this process because it has such low enrollment, and what we're looking for is to just make sure we have those 3 distinctive plans and cost. So what we did is we used the cost sharing that's in PPO 3 to make a price point for that HMO plan. So now we have a high PPO 1 and 2, HMO middle of the road, and the next one I'm gonna talk about is the high deductible plan, and then we'll stop for questions if that works, unless you have one now. Okay, our high deductible plan at the end is our lowest cost sharing for biweekly sharing, okay? So we listed the biweekly and then the annual underneath. Thank you for the arrow, that's really helpful. And then what it does is the IRS identifies what your minimum range is for having a high deductible plan. So we adopted in the recommendation the very lowest that could be offered. Now this does change over time, but that's what those asterisks mean with the 1,600 and the 3,200. With a high deductible plan, when you're IRS eligible for a health savings account, which is a HSA, we can offer a HSA, and what our recommendation is to do to incentivize those to explore it or maybe be our first adopters and help other individuals explore it is to offer a seeding, like to fund that account with a match, which is very normal in an industry best practice with having an HSA account. So we would do employees 1,000 and families 2,000 for the first 2 years. Within the 3rd year, we're exploring lowering that amount to get those individuals enrolled in a high deductible plan or a HSA. Now, we're not looking to encourage those to get into a high deductible plan, but offer another pricing structure, another plan model that is affordable for others, and then seeding the HSA so that they can pay for the deductible and pay for those items that are needed under the plan. All the plans here follow the ACA, which means all preventative care, prescriptions and care is 100% covered, so that wouldn't place any risk on our employees or members for that. I'll stop and see if there's any questions.
Any questions? Commissioner Woodward, followed by Commissioner Nelson. Or I'm sorry, Gershenson.
Thank you,
Yep.
I think, Madam Chair. So with the HSA, I mean, if you're someone who's just gonna go to your doctor, maybe has a cold and has to pay a copay for something later on or go to urgent care or whatever, and you barely use that fund, those dollars roll over to the following year, right?
Yes,
And it's
an
portable,
HSA.
an HA, yeah,
Thank
so
you
it's
for pointing
portable
that out,
forever,
yes.
so.
HSA is portable. It's also looked at as a need from HR for recruitment and a retention need. We have a lot of individuals joining the workforce that already have a HSA account funded. So when they come here and we don't offer a plan that has a HSA, they're not able to use those funds. So we think it's a needed option on our platform.
Commissioner Gershenson?
Wow, this is a lot of numbers. It's 10 o'clock. But at Mackinac, I heard Mark Cuban talk about his cost plus drugs. And I'm wondering if that's something we've ever looked at. The costs are significant. The Mavericks used to spend $169,000 on drugs, they're down to 19. I'm just wondering if that program would ever be considered.
Do you know who their PBM was?
I don't even know what PBM is.
Oh, they're pharmaceutical, like we're gonna propose going with Blue Cross Blue Shield.
Right, and I understand that, and I'm just saying, there is this new plan out there and it's providing a lot of savings. So I just wondered if it was something we might consider, we might look into. I can get that information if you need it.
I think it'll helpful because then we'll get a better understanding of what it is, so we
Tell
can
me
learn.
exactly what you want me to ask.
Really, just what the plan is and what is the,
It's an online program.
is it an online program?
Okay.
What's it called? Cost plus drugs, is that what you said?
I've never even heard
Cost
of
plus
it.
drugs
It's actually
is a
called
pharmaceutical
Mark
benefit.
Cuban's Cost Plus Drugs.
Mark Cuban?
And they asked why he would put
I
his
mean, he
name on
owns
it,
a
'cause he doesn't put his name on anything, and then he said it's just how much he believes in this program.
Okay, we'll look into it, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Nelson. Thank you, Madam Chair. Within one of the item summary documents attached to this item, it talks about, there's a statement, a sentence that says that the HR department will work with union leadership to seek out represented employees' interest in pursuing the letter of agreement to adopt the plan designs identified in Schedule A. What does that mean?
We can't unilaterally implement these changes without them adopting them through the letter of agreement process because it's already set in their established labor contracts. So this would be for non-union employees, and if they want to participate in the new plan offerings, that would be done by letter of agreement.
Have there been conversations
Yes.
had? Excellent. Thank you.
And very well received thus far. And the total, I'll also highlight too, we have a total rewards task force that's an employee body that has been involved in every step of this process. And
Nice. Thank you. Thank you. All right, thank you. Any further discussion? Commissioner Spiz?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just wondering, 'cause this is just a summary. So the cost numbers you have shown here, are they different from 2023? I would expect there's slight shifts in those numbers, but I didn't see a chart that showed me the delta.
Oh, so the only one that's changing as far as plan design would be the HMO. We're lowering the cost.
From plan design, does the plan design mean cost? So today, for a bi-weekly employee for PPO 1, they're only paying 42. Is that correct? Or is that-
Correct. Those are
So the
staying.
dollar amount that employees are gonna pay has not changed, except for HMO because it's replaced with PPO 3.
You got it.
Got it, thank you.
Commissioner Woodward, did you have another question?
Yeah, I just think, so the new plan is the same, basically, I mean, all the same benefits of our PPO.
They're gonna have a different structure, so the high deductible plan will require the employee to pay anything non-preventative out of pocket first before their benefits kick in.
Give an example.
If I have thank you, if I have a high deductible plan, my kid breaks his ankle, we're going to pay out of pocket first up to the annual limit to pay for any cost. So that $3,200 would be my family, if I have kids under my plan and a husband. And the county will have seeded that fund by $2,000, so that if it exceeds that, we would use the HSA fund first to pay for it, and then we would pay any out of pocket. With that, our goal is, with the high deductible plan, because the enrollment or the cost sharing biweekly out of their paychecks is significantly lower, that they would also put some of their own contributions into the HSA account, thus paying for the deductible entirely. That's how we try to manage those costs.
Got it.
Commissioner Spiz?
To build on that question, the HSA account, does the employee get to invest that where they want to, or is that set by the county?
It is I wanna compare it to like a set plan with the, like our retirement plan, like they have the 2040 plans, they have the different, I'm gonna use the wrong word because I'm not in the financial, what is it?
oh, the set portfolio.
Yes, the set portfolio.
Okay.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
Like, you can't move it.
Commissioner Gershenson?
However,
Access to-
it's my understanding that if you wanna make changes to that set portfolio, you can.
Within the portfolio, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, but
Select funds.
you can
It's
have that,
limited, I mean,
you can have it reviewed and you can get recommendations on your own for certain sectors you wanna be in.
As long as it's within a portfolio,
Of
yes.
course.
Yes,
Yeah.
okay, that was my question, thank you.
As fast as your retirement.
I have one. The HSA, so I see you said to try to seed it and to get people enrolled. So the county will be contributing, is it 2,000 the first year and then or the first 2 years?
The first 2 years, we put calendar year 24 and 25.
Okay,
For a family would be 2,000 each year,
okay,
and the following 1,500.
okay, for 2026. And is there anything beyond that, or is it to be,
To be determined.
okay,
This is for the first 3 years of implementation.
all right.
So it's 2,000 per year at once?
Each year.
For the two fiscal years.
For 24 and 25.
24, 25 fiscal year.
Yes.
One
Okay,
more-
Commissioner Woodward?
Just one more question. So, I mean, I think it's also important to know, I mean, it's not highlighted in blue, but the differential in the employee contribution is pretty significant. I mean, we're talking, a third of what the equivalent PPO is. And so that's money that, in theory, that could, I mean, if you're with the PPO without the high deductible plan, you're gonna be paying that regardless. And so I can speak for my children have broke their arms and stuff, but we've been doing a really good stretch of late. Of no broken bones and other things, and of course, summer's coming. But I mean, I can just like visually in terms of like no one's been sick, every time like this, that the last few years have been good, but worst case scenario, that with the cost savings, at least over the next couple of years, the cost savings plus the county match, it is more lucrative than the PPO that's in place, which I would argue that I mean, that's the incentive to say, hey, this is incentivizing, look at this, and it's a way for us for cost containment. The second thing is I had an opportunity to talk to HR, and one of the things is that one of the strategies, and I asked a question of, I mean, how much does this save versus saving us money? And I've changed my question, like, this helps us hold our cost dollars flat. Keeping our health dollars flat is saving money, because it's going up everywhere, so I call that great. And then the last question, so after the next 2 years, I don't like this high deductible plan, and if, assuming that we're still offering the PPOs, can you come back? So are you locked in or?
Absolutely.
So
They
you
can
could go
change every year during open enrollment. They could try it for 1 year and switch back.
Got it.
Or if there's a life-changing event, birth, adoption, or marriage.
Commissioner Gersons?
Thank you.
So I would like your card after this meeting, but so that's where you make your change, is during the open enrollment, which has already passed, correct? We're out of it
That's for
now?
next year.
Fall.
Right.
September.
We're quickly getting back to
So
open
this
enrollment.
wouldn't be till 2024.
October 1, or,
Well, that's when enrollment kicks in, and then for the next year of 2024,
Okay.
January.
Calendar year.
right.
We have to
Yeah.
start planning now for January
Right.
1st, go live.
I'm planning that too, I'm thinking. Yeah, okay.
And we are doing road shows as well
Did
with
you
our.
put up your wedding ring? What did you say, I'm planning now for like life changing? Like, what?
All right, Marcia, what do you
Just
got?
And we just have one more slide, just so you can understand what our approach is. Yes, we are going to engage in the union discussions for those letter of agreements if they think that this is best for their population. But we're also gonna make sure we go to all of those various 48 locations we talked about earlier to meet with our employees in person, offer many different platforms to engage with them so that we're offering the education and they know they're making a good decision for themselves. We wanna make sure that we're providing as much information that we can. We're exploring a decision tool to also assist those that are going into open enrollment and are gonna have a lot of questions or might be apprehensive about going into a brand new plan that they've never explored before. So we just wanna make sure we're putting a very thoughtful approach into every level of this decision, should it be approved.
Okay, excellent. Commissioner Nelson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So with all the information that's been shared, we've heard a lot about all the pros. Are there cons to this change?
I think there's always gonna be somebody who sees a con in it.
And what do you anticipate those cons being from an employee's perspective?
I would think fear of change might be one.
I mean, it came up the question about moving to an all Blues platform. We have a very long list of the pros associated with that in terms of administrative, continuity and having one card. Won't that be nice? I can't tell you how many times I get my optical card at the pharmacy. So, there are some improvements on the customer service piece, on the administrative side. It was raised, having only Blues to choose from, does that limit our choice? But I think that concern is outweighed by the pros. That is a very long list of pros.
Sure. Well, it sounds like with the educational sessions, you have that all handled and under control, so thank you.
Excellent. Any further discussion? Oh boy, Commissioner Spin.
All right, similar but sidebar question for maybe future consideration. Has there been any thought by the HR department relative to benefits for individuals that might want to opt out completely because they get insurance for their spouse somewhere else, blah, blah, blah? So I know some organizations offer a little bit more funding for that because it actually saves the county money.
Yes.
So it kind of incentivizes them to actually go to somebody's insurance. And on the opposite side of that, if there are spouses or employees with spouses that have insurance in other organizations, you charge a penalty on the other side if they don't use that, if their spouse doesn't use their insurance because they get it at a reduced cost versus added to our policy. Is that something the county's considering in the future? Because I don't think it's in place today.
It's been since the day I started here, that's been high on my list of opportunities to explore, and I think we really need to dig in to analyze what the reality of our situation is and where there may be some opportunities and find some balance there.
Right, because it's something that's prevalent in the private sector right now.
Yeah, we've talked quite a bit about it.
Excellent point, Commissioner Smith. Any further discussion? Seeing none, can we do a roll call vote for this, please?
Sure.
She just wants to buck the system.
Jackson,
Yes.
Woodward,
Yes.
Spiz,
Yes.
Lutz,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Hoffman,
Yes.
Gershenson,
Yes.
Joliet.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you have 8 yeas, 0 nays.
Excellent, thank you.
Great, thank you very much.
Do you want to take a motion to receive and file a PowerPoint
Oh, yes.
presentation?
Yes, if I can have a motion to receive and file, motion by Spiz, supported by Hoffman. You prompted, oh, that's fine.
Okay. To receive and file?
Yes.
Davidas, you'll be switching to the Blues?
Can I?
Thank you.
Gershenson? To receive and file?
You have to vote, prompt,
I'm voting.
receive and file.
Receive and file the PowerPoint.
Recommendation.
Madam Chair, you have 8 yeas, 0 nays.
Okay, thank you. Next up, we have a resolution supporting Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson proposed 2024 budget to ensure full implementation of Proposal 2 and address historic disinvestment in election administration. I need a motion to recommend to the board, recommended by Commissioner Woodward, supported by Commissioner Gershenson. I just want to make one statement that I think it's important that the state, when these proposals go on the ballot, that there is a fiscal impact. And I think that that's left out, not just of this one, but of many proposals. And I mean, this is I agree that this proposal passed and it becomes an unfunded mandate and it does need the investment in our local elections. But I think for full disclosure, I think that's something that the state needs to consider the cost of these proposals, should they go through costs. So with that, any further discussion? Commissioner Woodward.
Yeah, I mean, this resolution is before us. I mean, a coalition of, pro-democracy, election administration folks have been trying to secure the dollars. And I hear the point that you're making. I mean, I think the voters by that proposal said, state of Michigan, you shall fund this. Now, the question is at what levels do you fund these things? And I think that's why this is important to weigh in, because as of now, through the budgetary process, the amount of money that's been determined, and the Secretary of State is the chief election officer, but working with our county election officials as well as our local municipalities, I think comes to a number in order to fully implement it. And I think it's appropriate to weigh in. So, I mean, I'm fully supportive of this resolution. And I've asked this question, I was talking with our Oakland County Director of Elections. Like, has there ever been a number per voter, number per municipality population? Like, this is what we have to fund, because when you have local municipalities, and these are where our elections generally are run, some are well-funded, some are not well-funded, and as a result, you get a different experience. You have different pay scales for election workers, which doesn't make any sense to me, to run an election that's across the state, national and state elections, et cetera. So I think there's a lot of work to be done. They have work done, it hasn't happened, and so we'll be working with the Director of Elections to try to figure out what is that appropriate number. Just even, in the municipalities that run the elections in Oakland County, to be able to, are we getting to that point? And we have put resources from a county perspective to help. There's a lot of equipment, but the early voting aspect is like basically holding mini elections consecutively for multiple days, and I think there's a lot unknown, and we've got a big election, obviously the presidential in 24 coming up, and hopefully a lot of the stuff being implemented for municipality elections this fall. I have one suggestion, and there's the last whereas, and I'll make this motion. The last whereas is in part, we reached out to our Director of Elections for that language to really lift up this point of advocating collaboration and like prioritizing collaboration versus go it alone strategies. So we'd like to swap out whereas for be it further resolved and make that the first be it further resolved clause. It's basically the same, the last whereas.
Okay. So what would it say?
It would just say, be it further resolved, the Oakland County Board of Commissioners. This is the exact same language. I think that's actually where it was supposed to be. So, whereas is kind of like the preamble stuff. This is language that has the support of our Director of Elections, actually authorship of. And so if we could, make the motion just to swap out whereas for be it further resolved and make it the first be it further resolved. Yeah.
Do I have a
That's my amendment.
I'll support that amendment.
Commissioners?
I'll support the amendment.
Oh, Commissioner Smith. Support. Is there any discussion on that amendment? Commissioner Jackson?
Could someone really define a collaborative approach when we talk about this whereas being changed to an action item being therefore resolved? Collaboration between municipalities and the county, like we do with the absentee voter ballot tallying.
It's a mix of, yeah, well, I think there's two things, like one of the, if I may.
Yes, go ahead.
So one of the new election mechanisms will be this early vote, the 8 days of voting prior to election day, where you'll be able to go in, vote as if you were voting on election day, slide into the machine. And there's obviously the cost of securing that machine because it's like running an election every single day for the 8 or 9 days prior to the election. In Oakland County, and I think this committee probably should get an update like what's our preparation plan. Our elections director, Joe Roselle, I think has done a phenomenal job. Virtually every municipality in Oakland County is collaborating, basically identifying where these sites will be, working together to figure out how to do that. Some areas around the state are not. And so this is, I think the importance of this language to say, hey, we are doing all the hard work and figuring out how to work best together. That should be rewarded versus the extra cost of I don't know. There's examples of counties in which we're not coordinating at all, but the cost of not coordinating is extremely high. I think examples of our absentee, when we created the new absentee counting board for the county for communities to voluntarily opt in, there's been a high success rate, not only because of the economies of scale and the training involved and being all in one location and everyone's working from the same bit of information. Even this last presidential election, within 15 minutes of the polls closing, they were done by counting all the absentee ballots in all those jurisdictions, I believe close to 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. And that data was posted. And I think it's important to get that, get those election returns posted as quickly as possible to mitigate any type of conspiracies. It's like, no, the votes are here. Now, where there's less collaboration or smaller jurisdiction, less staff, maybe less sophisticated, not in terms of not knowing what they're doing, just that they just don't have the personnel in total or the systems in place to do it, that, well, if that results in a 24-hour delay of those numbers, then it's the suggestion of like nefarious activity when it's just taking longer. So that's the purpose of that language is to basically say Oakland County has been doing a lot of this stuff, and we would like you, if it comes down to funding A or B, fund the things where people are collaborating to lower those costs and make this work as best as possible.
Thank you. Any further discussion? So we need to prompt the vote on the Woodward amendment. On the, to change the whereas clause to the be it further resolved. The Oakland County Board of Commissioners supports a state funding plan that encourages and rewards those municipalities that choose to collaborate, a collaborative approach to early voting over those that operate independently.
Right.
Prompt the vote, please. And the amendment, yes.
Madam Chair, you have 8 yeas, 0 nays.
Excellent. Okay, now I need, we already have a motion and support for the original.
Yes. No, going back as amended.
Okay. If I can have a motion and a second for the resolution as amended.
We already have a motion on the table, so this will be as amended, we'll prompt.
Okay, can I do a roll call on this?
Sure.
Okay. Oh, what, sorry,
Question,
Commissioner
time.
Smith.
Because I believe, I agree with what Commissioner Joliet said and what David said. The question I have, and I don't know enough about this to have the answers on it at this point, are there any other options on the table other than what the Secretary of State has put out there from a budget perspective? Because I agree it needs to be funded on some level. And I agree we need to be efficient and effective, right? But is 177 the right number? I don't know that to be correct. Are there other options on the table that funded at different levels for different aspects? And that's where I'm really gray, because I don't know. So outside of not knowing, how do you?
I'll just speak to that. So, the Secretary of State is the chief election officer for the state.
Okay.
And so, I don't know who else would be out there.
That's why I'm asking.
I don't know if there's, I think this number is more than what was in the recommended budget. So there was money in the recommended budget. I think this is the determination, in order to do this right, we need these additional resources. So this is more than what was in the original governor recommended budget. Again, I don't even believe that there's a lot of daylight between this is important. The question is well, we spent 177 million here, that's 177 million not spent
Somewhere else. Agree.
Okay. Any further discussion? Seeing none, can we do a roll call on this?
Commissioners Woodward,
Yes.
Spiz,
No.
Loops,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Hoffman,
Yes.
Gershenson,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
Joliet.
No.
Madam Chair, you have 6 yeas, 2 nays.
All right, thank you. Resolution passes. All right, that brings us to the end of our agenda. We now need to open up for our final public comment. Is there anyone from the public that would like to address the committee? Seeing none, I will close public comment. Do I need a motion to adjourn?
You can.
Okay. Adjourned.